All right, beautiful.
Cool poster, by the way.
Oh, this one?
Hmm.
Yeah, you know what's up. All right. My name is Zero Gravity, Scary Movie Sister at Afropunk.com. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Grammy winning artist and the master of existential dread in many modes, Flying Lotus. Congratulations on an explosive release, and thank you for meeting with me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I feel like this is a long time coming.
Yeah. That's for sure. All right, let's get into it. I want to start with a quote. This is a tagline from Cronenberg's 2002 film Spider, which goes, "The only thing worse than losing your mind is finding it again." After reading this
Mhm.
script, what were your initial thoughts on how to blend in survival horror with memories lost in your direction?
Yeah, good question. I think I think the script was just like a puzzle when I got it. It felt way more puzzling on the page than it turned out in the end. And but I found that to be so inspiring, and just to feel like it was something that it wasn't necessarily complete yet. It was the bones were there, but it just there was something it needed. And filling in those gaps, that was, a lot of it was visual, a lot of it was sound, but it's just I think it's the most fun stuff to play with. It really is. It's like playing with perception and playing with memory and who we are, what we were, and who we want to be, and who we wish we were. All that stuff. That stuff is so, that's what we deal with. That's a point of relation for the general audience in sci-fi, and this movie specifically.
That's what's up. And
Mhm.
it translates. So I'd love to talk about the importance of collaboration on this project.
Yeah.
Because with your first feature film, Kuso, even with your preferred support systems around you, that's you. That's you
Yeah.
down to the DNA, like
Yeah.
producing, directing, wrote,
Yeah.
edited, handle
Yeah.
sound design and score, probably
Yeah.
a bunch of other stuff. But that's like 26 hats on your head. And you
Yeah.
must have been a sponge because even with sharing the workload this time around with Ash, the film is still an unapologetic work of fly low. So the script came to you, but this world was ultimately created by you. So I'm curious to know, what was the process like to translate your idea of the world of Ash to your production designer, Ross McCarva?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to work with these folks because I had been sitting on the script. I'd had it already for about a year and a half before we even started thinking about production. So I've been like beating the stuff up with every kind of sketch and like using Unreal Engine to come up with little ideas and things. And I was just I had a bunch of things already that we knew weren't going to be in the movie, like things that we weren't
Okay.
going to do. Like, okay, look, we we just can't build these corridors just like Alien, okay? We can't do
Uh-huh.
it. We're just not gonna do. We're gonna make this feel a little bit different, okay? And it was just there was certain things that because I had a bit more time, I got to build the lore and to do a little bit of the work ahead of time. But when I think when it comes to the crew, folks were always just a little bit more inspired to do something that was sci-fi and world building and something that they could contribute, something they hadn't done, or some new thing that they heard about and want to try, or the sci-fi is perfect for that. And yeah, I think everyone saw this opportunity to experiment as well because we had a very limited budget, and we were like, what are we going to do to set us apart, and how are we going to compete? When you got Romulus, like that was the movie that I was like, oh man, there's gonna be an alien Romulus, man. Like, what am I gonna how am I gonna do any what am I gonna say? I was like, and it's Fede, like, what am I gonna do? It was like so I was just like having my own crisis when all that was going on. But it was just
Wow.
how do
Okay.
I do my own thing, and what can I say in this with little resources?
Yeah. Well, that might be Fetty, but this is Fly Low. And
Yeah.
this is a whole different ball field.
you
And
know?
I will
Yeah.
say, like, for fans of the Alien franchise and also fans of Fly Low, we got even, okay, Ash. I get it. I
Right,
see
yeah.
what you did there. But it's its own universe,
Yeah.
literally, figuratively, all the different ways. So when watching this, You can feel that everything in the film has layers to it, even costuming. Can you describe working with Adar Throop on costume design to help
Yeah.
fuel the point of view of the story?
Yeah, there was very limited folks that I was able to work with that I knew ahead of time. And you know, we had some really interesting prospects for costume design, but I knew Itor. We had, you know, we've worked on some things together and always wanted to work on some cool stuff together. And, you know, his sensibilities are similar. And he's just one of those people where like he thinks up, you know, backstory for a jacket. You know, like a jacket has backstory, a zipper has you know, these zippers were, you know, the zipper in this way represents, you know, the a heart being crossed out and all that. You know, he's just so poetic in the way he approaches things that way. And I feel like that's how I think of music, and that's how I think of films. And I hadn't met anyone who has that kind of poetic sense of thinking about, you know, clothes and fashion. And I just loved him, and we had to bring him in. Had to bring him in. It was a weird learning curve for everyone because he was in Europe, we're in New Zealand, and you know, kind of navigating all that stuff and getting that across. And but he finally made his way over in New Zealand, got in the fold, and you know, everybody loved him, and we all loved working together and trying stuff out. You know, come on, making space suits and space jumpsuits.
Yeah,
Honestly, there was a point where we're like, we got to just call this movie Jumpsuit the movie because we were spending
I'm
so
dead.
much time trying to figure out the jumpsuits and the space suits. It was like it took up a lot of our lives.
I hope that you have like one of them
Oh,
displayed
you know I
like in the
do. You
crib.
know I
I know
have
that's
mine.
right.
You know I got mine.
Perfect. All right, so Gareth Van Niekerk handled your Foley and sound design,
Yeah.
but you, as a composer of this film, I know that sound in general is very important to you. I could be wrong, but I feel like even the little intercom noises
Oh, you
and the
know,
gadget like
yeah.
jingles, I feel like that's you. But how
You
was that collaboration?
yeah, I did those intercom I did the intercoms. I think you know, the thing about the sound designers, they're these two great guys. Gareth, he was amazing, and another guy named Ben. They were both just killing. I was doing a lot of music in New Zealand in a little suite, in a little cubicle, small room, but their room was right next door. And so, you know, we're throwing ideas back and forth at each other, like, you know, and they're also musicians. So I'm like, yeah, this song that I'm doing for the scenes in G minor. So why don't you put your sound effects in G minor? You know, and
Ah,
we can,
okay.
you know, so it was for like crazy on that level, just geeking out, like trying to do stuff in the same key. You know, the alarm is going off over here. Well, all right, what BPM is the alarm? Because I'll make the track in the
Ooh,
same BPM as the alarm going off. You know, and it was just a lot of stuff like that. The lights flashing at what tempo? All right, and so it was just that kind of. It was so fun. We just geeked out the whole time. I think it might have been the most fun part of the whole movie, just doing that part.
nice. It feels like nerdy horror kid
Oh
summer
yeah,
camp.
nerd
Yeah.
heaven. Yeah.
That's great. All right, so this is not so much of a maybe it is a question actually, but I love the fight sequences, specifically that POV
POV one, yeah,
scene. It's
yeah,
so chaotic and
yeah.
confusing, disorienting. It really helps translate just the general theme of confusion. How did you do that? Is it stuck like camera on the stunt
That
person's
was,
head
yep,
or
exactly, yep,
arms?
yep, yep, right on her
Okay.
head. You know, we had a small camera on her head, and it was, I think that we used my camera that I brought from home. That was like my little Sony camera, and it looked great. It looked
It
awesome.
did.
It was so cool. I loved that. And that was like the first day or two of filming when we did that. So I think when we did that, it just gave the crew a shot in the arm. Like, all right, we're doing some fun stuff on this project. You know, it was like a really, really fun way to kick it off and just, you know, get everybody into the vibe of this movie. But yeah, we had it on a stuntie. Her name was Elodie Petraeus, I think her last name. And you know, she was a superstar on the movie. She did all the Asa stunts, and she just threw herself all over the place. They gotta give the stunties an Oscar. That's
Hell
why I
yeah.
talk about it. Give the stunties an Oscar, please. They deserve it. It's so hard, and it's honestly, they're the coolest people. They deserve it.
Bruised and battered for our
You
entertainment.
know what I'm
I
saying?
was
Give
soaking
the
that
stunties
up.
some.
It
Give
was
the stunties
wild.
some. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So your art in all modes is very reactionary. Okay. And this this third act is a wild ass boy with his practical effects. You clearly were having the time of your life making this. But can you talk a little bit about your experience just directing that last third chaos and the
Yeah.
practicals and the blood everywhere?
I think, there was this moment of just like, because we've had this back and forth with these two characters, it just had to reach an explosive point, literally. It just had to hit the boiling point. And I always pull from video games as my influence too, aside from films. And I always love the Resident Evil series
I
where it's
knew
like,
it.
yeah, I love the Resident Evil series where it's like, all right, you kill the boss, and then it does another thing and it mutates, and it's like, come on, like how many mutations, how many times are you gonna do a thing? Just stop and die already. It's like I love that feeling. It's just like, okay, how far can we push this guy? Yeah, so
I
fun.
love it. Dang, I love that you just said that because I'm sitting there on my couch watching this damn film and I'm like, it reminds me because the last Resident Evil I played was 8. I just replayed
Oh
it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
there, that time when everyone on the internet was like, oh my God, Lady Dimitrescu, she's so hot and
Oh
she's
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
beautiful.
Super
It's
tall
kind of
lady.
like this film because it's very beautiful. It's aesthetically stunning. And then it mutates once and then
Yeah.
I am no longer in love. And now I'm a little disgusted. And then
Yeah.
again and again and again.
Oh, I love
Oh,
that.
perfect. All right.
Love
So, I mean, at this point, you're just a master of the existential dread of future
it.
dystopias. And I am really looking forward to the next hellscape that you trap us in. Are you going to stay in the future dystopia? Because I do think that you have a home here.
Hey, if the audience wants me, I'll stay,
Yeah.
Thank
Don't
you.
go nowhere. All
Thank
right. Well, that's all that I have for you today. Again,
Appreciate you.
congratulations on a crazy release. I'm really
Thank
looking forward to watching Ash maybe about 3, 4 more times.
you. You
Maybe
are the
with
best.
headphones even
You
too
are
at
the
home
best.
when I get
You
there.
are the best. I
Thank you,
appreciate you.
sir.
Thank you so much for the support.
Of course, my pleasure.
Uh,
And I'll catch you soon.
Hopefully, yeah. Take care.
See ya.
Peace.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.